You are listening to Processing Trauma Out Loud, conversations about trauma and healing from two women who are doing the work.
Hey everyone, it's Kandace and Sher with Processing Trauma Out Loud. Although today it's not just Kandace and Sher. We have a very special guest with us today who I am going to introduce to you here in just a second. But if you've been listening to the last few episodes, Sher and I started a series of discussions around the topic of shame. We've been saying really a war on shame. And today we are going to invite our friend and our coach, Patria, to just share a little bit of her story and really just to kind of teach us what she knows about this topic, which I know I've been working with her for, I think, Patria, over 5 years now. And we talk about shame quite a bit. Yeah. So can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and where you're at and what you do? And let's see, can you also just tell us something that you love to do?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. I split my time between here and the mountains of Colorado because that's my favorite place to be. So I'm answering the last question immediately there. I love to be in the mountains. I feel complete in a different way when I'm there. So I really love to be in the mountains, just being there. I don't even have to be doing anything, just being there and taking in the scenery. And I always say the mountains hold me in a way that nothing else does. And I just love that. Mm-hmm. I am just so thrilled to be here with both of you. I just adore you both. And I think you know that, but just to publicly announce the truth of it. So it's just fun. I've been looking forward to being here and talking about this. I love your name, War on Shame. So a lot of what I do is really work to help people reconnect with their own self, their own intuition, their own wisdom, which naturally combats shame. Because so much of shame has to do with, I don't know myself. I can't find myself. I'm not held in myself. And so I just love to be here. And I'm here in Lincoln, Nebraska with a collaboration of healers. We call ourselves a collective of healers doing different things, including story work, coaching, art, somatic care. And we also have a nonprofit called Courageous Pathways, where we really like to connect people who want services of good care, being attuned to well, having their shame engaged well, but don't have the financial resources. We'll come alongside and help them that way. So,
can I ask you really quick? Do you still have people that are also doing the spiritual direction? Sometimes
yes.
I have people ask me. I've sent them.
Yes, I didn't mention spiritual. I'm always leaving something out, but yes, spiritual direction. We also have licensed mental health care if they're in the state of Nebraska. So yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. The Broken and the Beautiful. And
the Broken and
find
Beautiful.
them online at thebrokenandbeautiful.com, I believe, right?
That's right. And watch out for a podcast coming.
Yes. Good. Yes. Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The Broken and Beautiful podcast?
Yes.
Hey, yes. Awesome. Yeah. I'm sure that we have inspired that. So I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. You sure have. That's right.
That's really exciting. Yeah.
Before we pressed record, Kandace and I were telling Patria that we often quote her, and we were apologizing for stealing all of her beautiful words. But one of the things that you've said to me a lot recently that I have been quoting to others for myself and them is, I'm waking up to who I am. And I think that shame is so powerful in causing us to fall asleep to who we are or to press down who we are, to have to go through life hiding and pretending and performing, either because of this fear of someone else seeing what we believe to be defective about ourselves.
Mm.
And Kandace and I have shared a lot of our shame journey, our healing from shame journey. And just wondering if you would want to share just a glimpse with our listeners about some of the places where your journey of healing from shame has taken you.
Yeah. I had a really hard time recognizing my own shame. I would say it did not show up obviously as a good girl. I would say as with a style of relating as a really good girl that just adjusted my life to be good. It was really hard to find that the shame was actually coming through a lot of that. Like what I had to do was start noticing when I turned my eyes away. And I started asking myself, how often am I looking people in the eye? And unless I was doing my facilitating with people and boring into like you both know that experience of my full eye contact. I have a really hard time in my everyday life making that eye contact with people. And so that has been a point of work for me, is to look up and just let a smile come to my face, or just to be. And it's how that has actually probably, as simple as that sounds, that's probably helped me to combat my identity shame more than anything else. Is just to look up and look for eyes and make eye contact. And it's been good. Hard, but good.
Wow. I love that you mentioned that, or that you're sharing this. And we were just talking before we press record about how, and maybe you can talk a little bit about this, but how children at, I think you said 15 months begin to look away.
Yeah, it's either 15 months or 18 months, start experiencing the feeling of shame. And that is a sense of, so quintessentially, this might not be exact, but stereotypically, quintessentially, it would be if my mother's voice changes toward me, if I've just done something that she says no, her voice changes and it changes from softness, is if I look up at her, is she still going to be gazing at me with love? Or can I still crawl into her lap and feel her holding me? Or just, as an infant or a young toddler, it's the connection with the mother. And shame says, no, you won't get that. And it starts very early. That that experience of shame starts very early.
Yeah, it seems there's, when you have shame with a connection to like this punishment, and that punishment is I withhold from you, that's different than helping your child develop a healthy sense as they grow older that I may have to discipline you for things that could hurt you or hurt others, but I'm going to stay connected to you because you are worthy of that.
Yes. And remember that shame has everything to do with the gaze. So if you think about Dr. Dan Siegel talks about everyone's born looking for someone looking for us, right? It's every child is born looking, understanding there's going to be someone looking for them. Like shame is not in that innocent, brand new infant. And so it's about the gaze. It's will your gaze be there if I look back? And shame says you just have no, like it won't. You've been too bad, or you're too much, or that was too wrong for you to be able to be seen and loved and accepted and soothed for who you are.
Yes, and we actually talked quite a bit on our previous episode about my experience from our retreat in October, Patria, and how the gaze of love was so impacting for me in a moment when I was just being really, where I felt so much shame.
Yeah.
And I think, and you actually drew the group to that. I think you invited me. Can you look into each person's face and see? And it was literally that gaze that enabled me to breathe again and got me grounded. And
yes,
I just would like to stay on this topic about turning our face away. And I think that, as children, we can, like you're talking about, as an 18-month-old, you can see this happening when they begin to look down or look away or look up, hopefully. Or as we mature, we find all these ways that we can hide that, or that we make it more difficult to expose our shame. And so we go through life really bogged down by shame, and we don't even often know that we are in a struggle with shame. I think for me, it was such a surprise when I started therapy, and this concept of shame actually started to be named. What are some of I'm just thinking about our listeners who might be thinking, do I really have shame? What does shame look like? Or what does shame feel like? Or just wondering if you can address that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'm a definitions person, right? So I'm thinking, why don't we see if we can get a real clear definition on shame? And I'm just looking up really quick to see if I've got it in my languaging here, but I don't. But I want to read it before I answer that question. So let me just pull it up here.
Are you actually? Did you actually grab a dictionary with paper pages?
I have my own. Yes, I have my own.
Good.
All of my definitions that I've had help with. I can't take all credit for it, but so shame is an unpleasant emotion that can result from feeling like you've done something wrong or you've become unworthy. And so so shame is like, I think of it as like a pair of jeans. Like, I can't buy you a pair of jeans. I can't buy Kandace a pair of jeans, and you can't buy me a pair of jeans. Why? Why is that?
Oh, I know what I like, and there ain't no way that you are going to find a pair that is going to fit me the way I like it.
It's going to fit you. Yeah. Exactly. And me too, and the fit. And that is very true in these places like where we're trying to explain what shame is or understand personally what shame is. It's so particular to our stories. So we have to think about shame in relationship to something. So where do you feel shame means what do you have rules about you should never engage in, or you should always engage in? Or where do you feel your inner self pull back when you're just moving toward joy, or you're just moving toward freedom, or just starting to experience a sense of self? And there's a pullback and like, oh, did I say too much? Oh, I shared too much. Oh, I shouldn't have worn that outfit. Oh, whatever the case may be, it's particular. And so for listeners, I would say just start noticing where you feel the contraction in yourself that might not be perceivable until you start observing where that is. For me, it's around my joy and kind of silliness. I love to laugh. And I would say that my kind of like absolute delight, my favorite thing to do is just laugh and giggle, and for no good reason. And I grew up with a bunch of brothers and siblings. But over time, for whatever reason, that became like a sense of, I was not controlled enough. I was losing self-control when I would just giggle or laugh. And so that tends to be where mine shows up for me. Or if I'm not dress to the hilt, or if my hair's a little off or something like that. So again, it's all particular. And I don't know if that was too long of an answer, but those things all came to mind.
No, it's not too long of an answer. And now I know what I'm going to invite you to more of.
Okay. Let's go.
I just, that part that feels shame over being silly, being goofy, being lighthearted. Like, I want to invite you to more of that. And it makes me think of Cher last week, inviting her to more of her anger.
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking of me, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Just listening to you talk, I have multiple stories, even as a little girl, that I was very intense about something.
Yeah.
Very serious about something. I remember having to change schools from 3rd to 4th grade. Well, my friend group was kindergarten to 3rd grade. And so that felt fatal to me. Even though it was the same town, it was a different school. And I remember having this conversation with my dad and stepmom, and just listening to you talk, I'm like, oh, there that is. I was so intense about my feelings and my grief and my anger. And yet there was a shame because it's just no big deal, right?
Oh, right.
So I could share all kinds of stories like that. So and so I remember in my story groups, women started inviting me into my intensity without shame. And I'm still on that journey, but I don't know. It's just, it feels really sweet to me when we know each other at that level.
Yes.
That we're not going to let shame keep us in hiding over these things that can be gifts.
Well, that's where shame is. It's at the point of your gifts. I mean, that the purpose of shame is to take you out. It's to keep you from expressing the most quintessential, authentic, and beautiful part of you, because beauty actually supports trauma. Beauty heals us. And so shame is trying to pull back from Kandace. For you, of course, intensity is where shame is trying to take you out, because your intensity, like, you can edit this out if you want to, but I've told you, you're like the ocean, or I just look at you and you're like a mountain range, and my work is to just hold space for you to be who you are because of your strength and intensity. Yeah.
That's hard for me. Okay, I'm feeling it.
You can edit it out if you want, but it's so that place where shame is trying to shut us down, but it's also the place where we can't be shut down. And so that's why the wrestle happens. It's how we're designed.
The wrestle, and we're just so close to out of time, but it's so hard to stop right here, but we're coming back for a next episode. But I want to ask, just what we're talking about here is the way that shame causes us to be constricted, to almost in a sense lose life, to shut down, to get small, to pull back, all of those kind of, to hide.
Yes.
And what our need is in the healing process, in part, is what you even just did with Kandace here a little bit. Rename, reframe. Yes. Like shine the light on the gift where there has actually been pain. She has had pain in this space, and now you offered a renaming, a reframing that just caused her to come forward and get larger. And I wonder if, and you are so good at this. You've done so much renaming and reframing in my life too. And so Can you just, as we close this episode, can you just talk a little bit about how and why renaming is so powerful? Even maybe what it is and why it's so powerful.
Well, yeah, boy. Well, I could go pretty philosophical there, but I want to stay really practical, that a name means something, our name means something. And I don't mean our given name, it means something too. And oftentimes it's amazing how directly that connects with our story. But renaming the places where we've been called bad or just dismissed. Sometimes dismissal is the most difficult kind. I think of Kandace's story there and the dismissal of a little girl who's just coming into like her new body, her new school, her new friend group. I mean, it's huge transition. But the adults in her life wouldn't hold the intensity with her and name what it was. So she had to name herself. That was what she's left with. And children are terrible interpreters, wonderful observers, but terrible interpreters. They need an adult, a strong, containing adult to say, oh, of course you do. Of course you feel these big feelings. And here's a way to help you get that out of your body, or let me just squeeze you, or whatever that might be for an adult to help process those big feelings, because those are in our body. So that comes to my mind. That's why renaming is important, because it reconnects us with the truth of who we are and how we lost. We lost that along the way. It's like fell out of the car and we need to go get it and get it back in the car with us.
And this renaming, we need someone who sees us well in the ways that we have not been able to see ourselves. We need someone who gets closer to the particularities of our story so that they can help us connect with those parts of ourselves that we have lost or that we have shut down. And you named that for a child needs an adult. But I want to just point out that as adults, we often need someone who is taking that adult stance where the wounds are still affecting us in all of these young places of our body and soul. And that this happens. Like this is we did it. We saw it. in a sweet way, just in a glimpse, right? But this is what this so much of what we have in our experiencing in our journeys of breaking free from shame. And so thank you for that. And we're going to be back for another episode with Patria. And Kandace, any closing thoughts before?
No, just I just love being here, and I'm just in awe of just where we're all at in this journey. Yeah.
Me too.
Thank you, Patria.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So good to be with both of you, and I love you both so very much.